Welcome back, everyone. We're Late Night Movie Service. Glad to be back. My name's Diego.
I'm Joaquin.
Today, I know it's been a minute, we're reviewing the 28 franchise. That is 28 Days with Sandra Bullock, 28 Days Later with Cillian Murphy, 28 Weeks Later with Idris Elba and Jeremy Renner. And we also got the most recent one, just came out, 28 Years Later with Aaron Taylor Johnson, Jodie Comer, Ralph Fiennes. And we're just here to talk about all three of those. So I think without further ado, let's just get into what the franchise is about. Technically, it's an infection/zombie kind of franchise. I would say they're not necessarily zombies. They're more just angry people. So, I mean, we kind of see that in this most recent one, 28 Years Later, how they still act and function like regular people. You don't have to, shoot them in the head for them to die like a lot of zombies do. But, we're what's smiling? What are you so happy about?
Nothing.
Nothing? Okay.
Absolutely. No, recently, I know we both of us have rewatched this trilogy, and man, each one is so good on its own.
Exactly.
Really, really good movies, but I think we'll get into that later.
We'll
honestly,
get into that.
Yeah, we'll get into that before I speak, but every movie is a certified banger. So, some are honestly very controversial. I didn't know this, but a lot of people don't like either 28 Weeks Later. They don't like this new one, 28 Years Later. And then I know there's some people out there that don't really care too much for 28 Days Later.
Well, I was going to say each one, I think, has its ups and downs. But honestly, in terms of like movie quality and just the story each one is able to tell, I think each one does like an amazing job in crafting its own story, because they're not connected like, say a straight up sequel would be. It's each its own story with its own different person. Of course, this 28 Years Later is gonna spawn its own trilogy with the second one, The Bone Temple, coming out next year. Alrighty, so let's talk about 28 Days Later, the first one. Mr. Wagon, what are you thinking about that first one?
All right, so we're getting into it. 28 Days Later. What are my thoughts on it? I remember during COVID, during the first couple weeks of lockdown, or maybe even before, like a couple weeks before, I watched 28 Days Later for the first time, and I didn't like it that much. I remember the beginning, being enjoyable. It's the iconic scene of him walking through London, deserted and all that. Everybody knows they woke up early in the morning and they shot it when everybody knew. But I think I was just too young. My palette for movies wasn't as, I guess, developed as it is now.
Yeah.
And so I really thought of it as like this boring slugfest of a movie. But last weekend I rewatched the movie for the first time in about 5 years, and a lot has changed. Well, my opinion has changed big time. And for me, I feel like the movie has changed. For some reason within those 5 years, maybe little elves worked on the movie and made it a little bit better. Or like I said, maybe my taste has developed a little bit more. But wow, I really enjoy it. I don't care if it looks like it was filmed on, a ham sandwich. It's still a really, really good movie.
In my humble opinion, I agree with a lot of what you said. It is a very unique movie. In terms of like a zombie movie, infection movie, it is very grungy. I think we were talking about this the other day, how each one of the 28 films feels like it was filmed, like you said, with a ham sandwich. Like each one has its own like grimy feel to it. Like I think the 28 Weeks was probably like the most pristine out of them all, because this most recent one, 28 Years, was actually filmed on an iPhone. So, just each one provides like a little bit of graininess, but this first one gives you so much graininess, and in all honesty, it kind of taints the movie for me a little bit. A lot of people really like it. I think, if this was like a one version that was made of the movie, it's kind of like a cool, like little like grungy experience. But like you said, it was filmed on what?
A ham sandwich.
No, like digital or...
Oh, yeah, a digital camera.
Yeah, no.
Like a handheld digital camera.
So it was filmed on a digital camera, which means it can't get repressed or, screened in a better version. It's just stuck as this version forever.
Yeah, there's no film. There's no, like, original film print to it where they can take it to, like, a 4K scanner and, transfer the film and make it, restore it, make it a little little bit better, refine the look a little bit, but there's none of that. You're just gonna have to deal with it.
Yeah, and I think that
But it's good. I like that though. Like at first, when I first watched the movie, exactly. That was my opinion when I first watched it. I was like, man, this kind of sucks. It takes away. It's super distracting when watching the movie. But I guess as time's gone on, I really appreciate it for what it is. At least, I don't know. I like it, but I understand why some people don't at the same time.
Yeah, totally. Like once again, I feel like this movie does its job. It's really unique in the sense of what it does because it's a movie made up of like 3 like little segments. This first segment, and of course spoilers for this whole video, we're gonna be talking about spoilers, but for this first segment in this first movie, it's about main character Jim, played by Cillian Murphy, waking up in a hospital 28 days after a car accident, getting out of a coma. First shot of him is with dong hanging out, and he just finds this post-apocalyptic London, and in all honesty, it's some truly eerie stuff, and it certainly made its imprint in pop culture with how The Walking Dead started, as Rick Grimes, the protagonist in that comics and show, wakes up pretty much in the exact same mannerism in a hospital. It's been overrun, no one's there, and once they venture out into the wasteland of the world, it's scary how quiet it is. There's no cars, there's no people talking, there's nothing. It's silence. And I think that's one of the eeriest parts of this movie and why I think it made such an impact on pop culture.
Did you know that they woke up early in the morning?
Did they wake up early?
And they filmed The Streets of London
No
early?
No way.
Before everybody woke up?
No way. That's the first segment. Character Jim wakes up. He finds what's her name, Selena, and that other guy holed up in a gas station.
Other guy quickly gets killed off.
We see who the character of Selena is. She's a very cautious person. She's a very people, if you're with people, they're gonna drag you behind. We can only rely on ourselves to make it and survive. Slowly throughout the movie, we'll see her find comfort in people again, after this tragic infection has like ravaged London and all that. And that's the cool thing about this franchise. It's just in London. That's another thing that 28 Years, the most recent one, touches on, the fact that this is just like London, Scotland, a few places in Europe that have this infection going on. The rest of the world is completely fine, but they just have to quarantine all these foreign places. And in all honesty, I think it's such a cool way to see how later in the movie we get this one soldier who basically all the other soldiers are kind of hard asses to Jim and his group of people, but his character specifically stands out because of this like little rant he does, saying how the rest of the world is fine and they've just left them there to die, essentially. And I think that's a really cool aspect they added to it, and they acknowledge and they planted that seed in this first movie to further explore and see what we saw in 28 Years, which we'll get to a little later in the video. But after the first segment, second segment is where Jim and Selena, they come across a family in a high-rise apartment building, played by Brendan Gleeson and his daughter. I don't know the actress's name, but they essentially say, we need you more than you need us. So, with open arms, Jim's like, let's help. Selena's a little more reserved in that manner. She's not ready to trust people yet, but this is one of the examples I was talking about where she's slowly gonna come around to opening up to people. She sees that this is just a dad and her daughter, so how can she really get mad at that? So this group of 4 now, they take a road trip, which is honestly, this is one of the aspects where I really wish there was a better version of this movie to experience, because the group of 4, they go on this road trip and there's all this like beautiful scenery around, but it's all gray, it's all blurry, it's all grainy, and you can tell if we just peeled back the veil, if we just looked beyond the layer, like how much of a cinematic beauty this would look like. And it still is a cinematic beauty in and of itself. It's just a lot more difficult to digest in my mind. Like, it's still pretty, but it could be prettier. And I think this movie in general, at least for me, is one of those movies where it's like, it's good, but it could have been better in a few aspects. And of course, the last segment, tragically, the group of four turned into a group of three after Brendan Gleeson's character. Do you remember his name?
I can't really remember names. No.
Yeah, it's cool.
I know they called him Dad a couple times.
Yeah, the dad character unfortunately gets infected in the most tragic way possible, as we truly see how contagious this infection is, as it's not just bites or scratches. If any part of an infected's blood or saliva or any bodily fluid gets onto you or into your system, it's game over. You are without a doubt infected. And we truly see the tragedy of how like easy something like this can happen when just a simple drop of blood gets into the man's eye. And it's just so heartbreaking when he knows he only has a few seconds left with his daughter. So he tells her, "I love you." And, you know, of course the soldiers show up, as the whole point of them going on the road trip was to head to the checkpoint with like the militia and all that. And of course, like, the militia arrives, they gun him down. But they take in Jim, Selena, and the daughter. In this part of the movie, honestly, I still enjoy it, but it is my least favorite. I think the militiamen are very campy in a way, but it's a good kind of campy, but it truly does kind of like take me out of like the whole like, oh, they're supposed to be intimidating, because they are assholes, but they don't seem like it. Like, it's weird. Like, some of them are like childish, others are kind of like, you know, really like hard and reserved. It doesn't feel as cohesive piece as like the first two felt like. And it's kind of slow. It kind of drags a little bit. Once again, I don't really hate this last segment. It is just the weakest out of the three for me. But in all honesty, this movie does its job well in showing or creating a new kind of zombie universe, an infected universe, one with like new rules that we've not necessarily seen before. And that's what I love about it, because like I said, this isn't necessarily a zombie infection. It's a rage virus. It makes people really mad. It acts similar to a zombie virus, but it's completely its own thing. And that's what I love about this franchise in general, is that this one took the extra step out of the zombie, you know, cliche comfort zone to create its own universe, and it's all the better for it. It can stand on its own 2 feet. It doesn't have to worry about, you know, fitting into all these cliches. It has its own set rules. And I think this first movie does a pretty decent job in all of that. Not the most visually pleasant movie to look at, also not the worst movie to look at. It's a pretty thematically wholesome movie, showing how even in this horrific world, where infection and violence run so freely, how people can still have a heart and all that and stick together. So all in all, I want to give this movie a 7.5 out of 10, at least for me. But yeah, what do you think?
Obviously, a lot of the time zombie movies are ways for the filmmaker to critique society, I guess, to show that the zombies aren't really the real monsters, it's the humans, it's the survivors. And that's kind of what happens in this movie with the soldiers, where the soldiers are more they have a more monstrous intent than the zombies, and a lot of the times it's not just the infected you need to be worried about, it's the other survivors, the other people who, you know, you think you can put your trust into. It's a very, very well made movie. The script is amazing. I agree. Well, I used to agree that third segment was really slow, and it kind of deviates from the movie a bit. It kind of takes it a little bit longer than what it should. But with this recent rewatch, I really enjoyed it still. I would give this one a 8.5 out of 10.
Very nice, very nice. Well, that being said, on to 28 weeks later. So as I said before, each of these movies has its own set of characters to play with. It's not really like a cut and dry sequel to the previous one. Same world that everyone's existing in, but different time period. Of course, this one is 28 weeks later. Essentially, as established in the first one, these zombies are still human, which means they have to eat. And without enough people to feast on, without enough knowledge to scavenge for food, they're going to starve and they're going to die. So essentially, in this movie, a majority of the infected have died. And I gotta preface this movie by saying this was my favorite. Now my favorite, I believe, has gone to 28 years later. This is my favorite just based on how disgusting, how disturbing it is, how absolutely wild and crazy the cinematography is. It's very shaky, it's very disgusting. It's comprised of a bunch of like quick shots and all that. And it's such a tragic movie once you find out how this infection is able to get out of the newly established quarantine zone, you know? And it's also a very human story of longing for our loved ones. And even if it might be dangerous, even if it might cost someone an infection, cost someone losing their life, how far we're willing to go to see these people. But in this movie, essentially, the quarantine zone's up. There's this dad and his wife that are chilling in a little cabin as their kids are away at some camp, I believe, right?
Yeah, they're away. I believe they're somewhere in Australia, I want to say.
They're on a trip.
For school, though, but they're away out of the country for school. And they kind of... It's a quick dialogue scene. It's a kind of blink and you miss it, you know, just as whenever you're getting... You know, you put on the movie and you're getting comfortable watching it. That little piece of dialogue happens real quick, but yeah.
But with this first opening scene, we learned all that about the kids. You know, this couple staying with an older couple, and there's like two other random people that are just in there, and everyone's freaking out. No one really knows what's going on. They're just holding down the bunker, and all the windows are boarded up. It's very dark. You don't really know what time of day it is. And then, of course, there's a survivor outside, a kid nonetheless, you know, so they let him in. But in doing that, they have to take down some of the boards, and one of the survivors looks outside and just barely looking outside gets the attention of the infected, who breaks down all the doors. They rush into the building. And I remember watching this movie, not knowing this was a sequel to the first one. So I didn't really know the rules. I didn't really know how the infection worked. But I just watched this movie for the first time a few years ago, and I was terrified. I was so scared of this beginning opening scene. It is so intense. It's such an adrenaline rush. And, you know, when it comes down to it, the dad has to leave his wife behind to get back to the kids. So he leaves all the old couple, the random survivors. They all die. I say die with, you know, air quotes, because we'll see what happens to the wife later. But some time passes. It's now 28 weeks later. And essentially, like I said, the quarantine zone's up. The dad is working there. He has his own like special clearances, and it's basically the American military that has to come in. But essentially in this movie, we see how, you know, how much this dad misses his kids and how remorseful he feels for leaving his wife behind. Not remorse, sorry. We see how regretful the dad feels for leaving his wife behind. And, you know, later in the movie, we see the kids wander out into the danger zones, the place the government hasn't necessarily cleared, and they find their mom, who's not necessarily infected, but she is bitten all over. She's really scared. She's really squeamish. But so they take her back to the quarantine zone, and they find out that she is infected, but because of a genetic condition, she's not exactly turning into a rage monster, which is a very cool aspect, which I wanted to highlight here, and how I believe this movie does separate himself from the rest of the franchise, as it does offer this unique little element that how the rage virus works. And in 28 years later, we'll see something with a baby, which once again, we'll talk about 28 years later in just a minute. But I think with this movie, it's a very cool aspect that they've added this to the franchise. And the movie essentially, I think, is pretty decent. I think it's better than 28 Days, just a little bit. And I think some people don't love this movie, which I totally understand. It's very much shoot, gun down on the infected, not so much of a personal story. Like the first half is a very personal story with the dad, his kids, and all that. But once that's over, we get to like all like the blood and guts of the movie, which is very enthralling. It's very thrilling. But I know a lot of people weren't huge fans of that because it took away from the human aspect, and it's just a lot of guns a-blazing and a whole lot of gore, which I personally love, but I understand why some people aren't too crazy about that. And this movie also abandons the 3-story arc kind of thing. While the first one did like the 3-story structure, this one is just kind of like one cohesive piece. I can see an argument for it's like 2 pieces, the part with his dad and the part just where it's sheer madness. But, you know, later in the movie, we do see that the dad reunites with his wife. And since she is still infected because of her genetic condition, technically she could bite someone and turn them into an actual infected, which happens when the dad comes into the room, kisses her, and turns him into an infected, which is such a heartbreaking scene that it was this, you know, slip up. It was no one exactly knowing what the virus could do in certain situations and certain what ifs and certain theories that led to this. It was a certain amount of ignorance that went into this, why this was able to happen. So of course the dad gets infected and runs around the compound infecting literally everyone, who infects literally everyone else, who once again unleashes the virus amongst the entire quarantine zone, leading to the soldiers in the area having to kill anyone and everything in sight, infected, non-infected, men, women, children. They have to kill everything because of this one slip up, and it is the same feeling of pulling that one block from the Jenga tower and watching everything crumble. It is heartbreaking. It is disgustingly disturbing. I think this movie is so memorable over how well it plays that. You know, it shows the soldiers trying to help get these kids to safety, also because the son has the same genetic condition as the mom did. So they think, oh, hey, if the mom's, you know, not susceptible to the infection, maybe the kid will be. So it's kind of like this rush to get this immune kid and potentially a cure for the virus out of there. And I think this movie is very fun watching all these people sacrifice their lives just to get these kids to safety. But what do you think?
Very well put, you know, the very well put rundown of the movie. But as you were recapping the movie, I was thinking about it, and I'm honestly liking it less and less.
Really?
The more time that I'm sitting on it. When I first watched the movie, it was the same thing. I'm like, man, 28 weeks later is a lot better than 28 days. But I think it suffers from the alien and aliens dilemma. And by that, I mean, a lot of people love Alien and a lot of people love Aliens, both for 2 different reasons. I think it's a good test to tell what kind of person someone is when you ask them, do you like Alien or Aliens? And I do harshly judge people based off that test. I think it's kind of like there's more zombies, more characters, more kills, more blood, more guns, more everything. And it's really good. You can tell that they upped the budget a bunch for this movie. And it helps it. And, you know, there's star power. There's, you know, very, you know, recognizable actors in this one. But for this one, story-wise, I don't think it's good. I think it's weak. I think the ending, and now that I think about it, I think the ending is weak. It kind of leaves you wanting more. And not as in this, like, oh, you know, it's depressive. It's not the happy ending you want. Like, from a storytelling aspect, it just kind of, it honestly ends where the middle of the movie should have been. Like, it hypes up that this kid might be the secret to saving the world, his genetic condition, this and that. And the movie doesn't end like Last of Us style, like them sending him off to a lab or this happening. They just make it to the checkpoint where they get picked up by the helicopter, right?
Yeah, and I think...
And it's like all this bloodshed of the characters.
We don't know what happens.
Yeah, and I don't think the characters are as well written in this movie as 28 Days Later. I didn't care as much for any of the characters as I did for Jim, Selena, or Gleason's character. Gleason's character in that movie is so damn good. I just think that's Gleason being one of the best actors ever. You know, but I mean, but still, you go through all this, killing off all these characters you're attached to, and it's kind of like, this is the ending. Like, they take off. We're not going to explain anything in a prologue or epilogue after the movie. There's none of that. Just, we hope that's what happens. And I get if they're trying to go for a gritty, real ending, but don't end there. Like, if you want to go for a gritty, real ending, kill off all of them or something like that.
Well, to be fair, I believe they were thinking of a 28 months later after this to kind of act as like a direct sequel, but that never went through. I believe Alex Garland finished writing it, but for whatever reason it just didn't go through. So I think just this being a movie in and of itself and planning for another one, I don't really blame this movie as much because they were hopeful to get another one, but due to poor reception, it couldn't get that chance. So I'm still hopeful that we'll come back to a potential cure and maybe one of the future sequels. Like I said, the baby that we'll talk about here in a minute, 28 years later, and this kid from this movie that was immune because of his disorder. So I think that will kind of be a theme and maybe one of these upcoming 28 years later sequels, but that remains to be seen. But yeah, what would you give this movie out of 10?
I would give it a 7 out of 10. I very much enjoyed the movie. I thought it was really good. Like you said, that opening scene is iconic. So damn iconic. It's so good. I remember, seeing it as a kid, and it also like scared the hell
Terrifying.
out of me. It's really good stuff. And yet again, I think this movie touches on, not to sound like the Joker here, but society. Also, like just how this modern world we live in is just so fragile, where something like that, just a simple mistake,
and a mistake of
everything.
A mistake of love, of that matter.
Yes, a mistake of love, and it kind of plays into the irony where this family has been devastated by this virus, and
they have this moment
by
of clarity.
Pure chance, they're all reunited again. It's happy time, and the dad says, "I'm sorry." He's like, "I'm so sorry I left you."
Yeah.
And she forgives him.
She forgives him.
Her husband left her to die, like looked her in the eye and left her to die, and she's like, "It's okay, I love you." And then they go in for the kiss.
All the saliva, they zone in.
Oh yeah, they zoom in on it. and then
he starts like hitting himself, and you're like, "Oh my god, no!"
Yeah, and then he starts turning like, and he starts tweaking, and it's like, no, and then he beats the shit out of his wife, breaks out, starts eating soldiers, and then it's just a domino effect from there. And yeah, I think this movie, kind of like the original, it has a lot to say, and what it says is very interesting, but I just think it's done it's executed not as well as 28 Days Later. Surprisingly, the one with the bigger budget and everything. But I think that just goes to show like how good of a writing and director duo Danny Boyle and Alex Garland are. I don't think, Danny Boyle didn't direct 28 Weeks Later.
So 28 Weeks Later was written by a few people, all like very ethnic names. The director was one of the writers, Juan Carlos Fresnadillo, Enrique Lopez Levine, just a bunch of like different producers and such on this. But this one looks like it had no involvement from Alex Garland or Danny Boyle.
Yeah, and it really shows, honestly. They're just such a powerful duo. But although this one is solid, that kind of sheds a little bit more light.
I'm solid.
Yeah, I know that, people have been speculating, 28 months later. But I didn't know that they tried to get it off the ground. I guess it was stuck in development hell. I know that there were rumors about it for years and years, but, we finally got the sequel, but... Yeah, I would give this movie a solid 7 out of 10. I had some harsh words for it, but I guess that just goes to show, like, the pros in this movie are very strong, and it's really good.
Me personally, I think I would give this movie 8 out of 10. I still think it's really good in what it does. I think, of course, it's not as well thought out as the first one was, but I think with every element that's lacking from that first one, I think this one finds a new one to push it up to the next level.
Yes, and a lot of the times whenever a sequel is discussed, one of the main things being talked about is, was this story worth being told? I think it is. I think this story still holds up, even with everything. It still holds up, and it pushes the world forward in a positive direction. So, I still like it.
Alrighty, well, we're on to the big one, the most recent one, 28 years later. And now, before we start talking about this one, I just want to say that this is my favorite movie of the year so far.
It beat Sinners?
It beat Sinners.
Oh my goodness.
This is my favorite movie of the year so far.
They're tied. They're so close.
We're gonna get into it all right now, but I just want to preface this by saying, from all the movies I've seen this year, this is the one I got the most out of, the most enjoyment, the most emotion, and yeah. If you wanted to take the lead, what do you think about this movie?
I think it's great.
What a movie.
What a movie. This
movie gets a what a movie out of Wagon, which is something he says whenever he's witnessed a cinematic masterpiece.
Truly, that's how you know shit's really good, is whenever I bust out the what a movie line right after seeing it. But, you know, if you see the trailer, you understand that it follows a dad, I was going to say
a father and a son.
Father and a son duo. And then later on, you see a mother and son duo and a baby. But it's like, Ralph Fiennes, what is this guy doing here? But this movie does an amazing bait and switch. You know, when watching the trailer, I was like, these idiots, man. Like, whoever runs these marketing campaigns now, like, they're just so stupid. They completely spoiled that Aaron Taylor Johnson's character, the dad, that he's gonna die.
He's only in a few scenes.
He's only in a few scenes in the trailer, and then you see the kid with the mom, and it's like, yeah, something's gonna happen to him. He's gonna sacrifice himself, or it's gonna be this real sad, scene. But the movie does a great bait and switch, and I love it. That's how competent directors and artists are behind this movie, and they know what they're doing. They're experienced.
Yeah, the movie was never about the dad as the sole lead. This movie was about the kid as the sole lead, Spike.
Yeah, always about the kid, and I really like that. But let's get into it. So we kind of start off 28 years later. Ooh,
and
decades have passed.
This movie takes it back to how the first one did it, with that 3-part story structure. This first one involves the kid and the dad. Second part involves the kid and the mom and some other soldier, which we'll talk about in a minute. The third one involves the kid, the mom, and the doctor, Dr. Kessler, I believe.
Excuse me, past Diego, for just a moment. This is future Diego here. Basically, me and Joaquin, the rest of this video, refer to Dr. Kelson as Dr. Kessler. Sorry about that. Got the names wrong. Also, sorry that the wide camera is broken. I should have it back in the next video. But thanks.
Played by Ray Fiennes. And each one...
Ralph.
No, his name's pronounced Ray. It actually is. It's spelled Ralph, but it's pronounced Ray Fiennes.
For real?
Yeah, I'm not lying.
Holy shit.
I know.
An Englishman.
The Englishman, man. But yeah, so this movie has 3 parts to it, similar to like the first one. I believe each one of the 3 parts is great in and of itself. I don't think one's better than the other, unlike the first one, like where I kind of like had my favorites of that one. This one, each one is great. Each one is amazing in its own right. But yeah, would you like to take us through how
yes.
Yeah.
So kind of like 28 weeks later, this movie has an amazing intro scene. I was knocked back by it. So it starts off with the first you hear like air raid sirens in a small town somewhere in the UK, and eventually it cuts to the inside of a house or one of the rooms, and the room's full of children watching Teletubbies. And man, it gives you this eerie vibe of something bad's about to happen. You just know it. You can see such great directing. You would think the kids would be smiling, having a fun time watching their favorite show. All of them look scared. And they have this face of anxiety. And that's really, really upsetting to see, especially like, from children.
They know something's wrong.
Yeah, and you can hear in the background a bunch of running up the stairs and people talking in the hallways,
A bunch of footsteps.
Yes, a bunch of you just hear commotion in the background.
Right.
And eventually one of the moms, she bursts through the door, drops another child off and tells him, stay in here. Shuts the door. You hear more commotion. And then bang! You hear the zombies come in and bah! And then one of the dad turns into a zombie and the dad breaks through the door and the kids are all screaming. And usually there's like there's a golden rule in Hollywood, and that's don't kill the dog, don't kill kids, don't hurt, kids or animals.
Yeah.
This movie just snaps in half like a tiny little twig.
It's off screen, but they still do it.
You see the blood hit the TV, hit the walls, and you hear them, and they get eaten by like their dad. It's really gruesome.
I love how this movie builds anxiety by putting Teletubbies on in the background. One of like the scariest, most disturbing like little kids shows just for how gross it looks.
And a small little detail that they did is in the intro, you can hear it when the Teletubbies, when it's like, it like pitches down the voice and it makes it real eerie, and then it pitches it back up. Yeah, again, like another great way to create, this feeling of anxiety and, put you on the edge of your seat. Eventually one of the sons, he gets lucky. He runs out, escapes the house barely by an inch, and he runs to this church. And inside the church is his father. His father's a priest, and his dad's praying. And at first it's not normal, but it's like, man, he's just praying, one last prayer before he goes out. He's trying to be strong through Christ in this moment of worry. And then eventually his dad just starts laughing, and he's like, yes, my children, yes. And the zombies break through.
He gives into the the inevitable.
Yes, but in like the most batshit way. And he's like, take me. And all the zombies crowd him, and they eat him. Again, by an inch, the kid who, then we learn his name, Jimmy.
Name's Jimmy.
Jimmy escapes. Now Jimmy has on,
cross.
Yes, his dad's golden rosary, I
Yes.
believe. And he's hiding behind or underneath the floor in the church, and he sees the zombies take his dad, and the kid's crying, and man, what a fucked up intro. It's really, really sad. And then boom, hard cut.
28 years later.
And we're in this little quiet little town, this off in the ocean.
Village.
Yeah, fishing village, and man, is it beautiful. It seems like.
And let me just preface this by saying this movie is the prettiest out of all three. It looks
Really?
the best, and it genuinely knows how to bring cinematography to the next level on an iPhone. On an iPhone. One of the best looking movies of the year on an iPhone.
Yeah, I could not believe that. Seriously, like a master at work, honestly.
Truly.
And it's this beautiful, quiet town. You're like, we're so back, guys. We're back. We got food. We got community. We got family. We have it all.
Dom Toretto would be very happy. We got family.
We got family over here. Very happy. You just need the muscle car and the racing.
Exactly.
But
28 years later, the third one, it's just Dom Toretto. It's like, hey guys, you need a ride. Just like ramming through. He's got like the spikes on like the
shut your
CGI Brian's
that
just
would
there
be
like,
my nightmare. That would be my nightmare.
Hey, man.
That would be my nightmare.
shout out CGI Brian.
Danny Boyle, please don't do that.
Danny Boyle, please.
Danny Boyle, please don't do that.
But it's a very tame backdrop to what was that intense opening and what has been an intense franchise so far.
Stark contrast, good old cinematic technique. Boom, stark contrast, day and night. But you find out that the characters you are following are the son Spike and what is it?
The dad's name is Jamie,
which
is inferred to be the kid from the beginning, as the kid's name was Jimmy. This one's Jamie. Like kind of like a nickname.
Mm-hmm.
It's not directly Jim or Jimmy, but it is Jamie. Very similar name.
Yeah, and so it kind of plants a seed in your head like, is this the kid from the intro? Is it? But you come to find out that there's a ritual in this town. I mean, it's 28 years later. Communities have already, have been built. And they have long-standing values, I guess. And the cool thing about this community, and it helps the world building so much, is you can see these new traditions take place within this new world, this civilization built from the ground up again. And one of those traditions is when you're a kid, a boy. I don't think girls do it.
I don't think girls do it either, but maybe, I don't know, who knows. But whatchamacallit is they typically say around like 15, 16 is when they go out.
Mm-hmm.
But Jamie, the dad of Spike, is so adamant that his kid goes out that Spike's only 12.
Mm-hmm.
And yet he's still urging the people to let him go out, and they allow him that.
But the great thing about it is you don't see Spike that's like, oh, Dad, I don't know if I'm ready. Spike is equally as excited as his dad.
He's a very competent character.
Yes, and I like that, finally, like a little kid character that's not a little biatch. Or at least, so it seems. We'll get into that. And they venture off into the mainland.
They go into
the mainland.
But
it tells the rules first, if you get lost, we're not coming back to get you. So that raises the stakes of like, oh.
Yeah, there's no rescue mission. If you're gone, you're
coming
gone.
back. Yeah. Like, once you're out there, you're out there. So Jamie and Spike then venture off into the mainland, and they encounter a couple kills, a couple zombies.
And we finally see the different types of infected in this universe now, as before it was just plain rage monsters. And while there is still rage monsters about, there's different kinds. There's, I forgot what the name of them for, but it's the really like bloated ones that lose the ability to walk. They just crawl and pick up little bugs and insects to eat, which is the cool thing to answer the question of like, oh, how are the infected still alive 28 years later if they were starving off only 28 days later? And that's because they've evolved enough to be smart and actually hunt for food. They get animals, they get fish, they get whatever they can get their little grubby mitts on, and that's how they managed to stay alive this long. So there's the really bloated ones, there's the traditional infected, and then there's the alphas. The alpha in this movie, I'm pretty sure whoever knows anything about this movie has seen all the memes about it. The alpha's packing. A lot of the infected in this movie are naked. Man's packing. But they're not just packing. They're packing up here. They're packing a huge noggin, you know? Alphas are really smart. They know how to hunt. They know how to dismember. They know how to wait for prey. They know how to lure prey out. And they know how to get stuff done. And they're typically the leader of certain infected packs. So after Jamie and Spike come across a few infected, get a few kills, they hide out in a little house, but they're kind of stuck there because they notice an alpha waiting for them on the other side of the hill. So of course they gotta stay the night, and it's only when it gets dark that they figure out, all right, this is enough time has passed. So they run, they just haul ass to the mainland, hoping to God that the alpha isn't behind them. And,
He's right behind me, isn't he?
He is right behind me, as the alpha has been tailing him back to their base the whole time, which is why he didn't try and get them there. He's following them. And right as the tide, I believe it's high tide, it's going back to high tide. Right as it's going back, so like the water's like at like their knees or whatever.
And that adds to the anxiety. They can't run fully. They're tripping over the water. They're trying.
The alpha, bro's on steroids. He's like hauling ass. It's like he's catching up, and it's one of the most thrilling scenes in the entire movie. The cinematography is beautiful. The stars in the sky are so pretty, but in contrast to what's happening below on land, it is terrifying. Just once again, this franchise is so good at doing those like little things where it's like beauty up here, horrible terror, unimaginable, disgusting. It's amazing. But of course, at the last minute, Spike and his dad Jamie make it back to land. The people, the watch guards with the bows and arrows, they toss a flaming arrow towards the alpha, and he dies. At least this alpha does.
And then, boom, it's a party. And they're throwing a party for big old Spike and his adventure. Welcome home. They're drinking. They're tossing Spike on the chair. They're celebrating him and his kills.
But he's not the happiest. He's not the happiest there. He seems that he doesn't feel like he earned it.
And the whole movie, you get this kind of very wholesome, relationship from the father and son duo. But with this one, you kind of realize that the father isn't as good as he seems. He's lying to the community about Spike's accomplishments, and even Spike is like, oh, I kept missing her. I didn't kill him. And the dad's like, he's humble Spike. And they cheers to him. And, on the surface level, you would think it's a good time and a wonderful memory for Spike, but it's kind of bittersweet for him. And it eventually gets too much to the point where he excuses himself out of the party and he pukes. And outside, as he's puking, he sees his dad getting a little frisky with the mistress.
Now, we didn't talk about this, but in the little beginning intro, we learned that Spike has a mom, Jamie's wife, who's sick in bed.
Yeah, Jodie Comer's character, something's wrong with her mentally. She's a little insane, or she's going insane. She's bedridden. Yeah, it's looking very bad for her. And you see, when the dad goes to take care of her, he stops for a second at the stairs and he sighs and he picks himself back up, and then he walks up and he's like, okay, honey, and it kind of shows that
he's over the relationship.
Or just, dealing with this sickness it's taking its toll on him emotionally. He doesn't know how to handle it anymore. He's he's over it pretty much. And then you see it those feelings manifest, and him going off with this other survivor in the village, this other lady, and his son watches his dad get Spike watches his dad get his freak on for a bit, and
Real.
and then he's like, oh, I'm out of here, and he gets all pissed, goes back home.
He sleeps with his mom for the night.
Yeah, and there he learns that there's a doctor. You know, he talks about who's the old man in their house.
He's just the caretaker of the mom.
Yeah,
I don't think he's related to the family.
like a neighbor.
Yeah.
There's this, like, I guess the grandpa figure in Spike's life. He's there, and he tells him, well, Spike tells him about his journey into the mainland and how he saw this big old smoke.
Yeah, big old fire.
Yeah, this big fire off in the distance. And he asked him, you know, do you know what that is? What is that? My dad didn't tell me. He said he's never been there. And there, that character, the grandpa, you know, character tells him,
Is Dr. Kessler.
yeah, there's a doctor. He went crazy. He lives in the woods. He's like a little troll, like a little fucking zombie troll.
It's
that's
like
out there.
horror stories. It's like he's like a myth. He's like a figure. Like, don't go there.
Yes, kind of, yes, very much. It gives a fairy tale feeling.
Exactly.
But that puts in a Spike's head, oh, there's a doctor out there. Maybe he can help my mom. And so later that morning, he confronts his dad about it. And we get the infamous, watch your mouth scene. Watch your mouth.
And that's when the dad's true colors are revealed, as Jamie not only hits his son, which causes Spike to pull a pocket knife on his dad, but the dad grabs the knife from the son, and from the way it's like framed in the cinematography here, makes you think like, oh, the dad might do something, but of course he gives the knife back to his kid. But it just shows, once the pressure's put on him, how quick he's able to switch to a new shade of color.
And it kind of goes to show that this dad has a very dark side to him, you know, where he has this anger, this deep either hatred or sadness within him. And it shows that in the beginning his dad's very comforting, very supportive of Spike, and you would never guess that he would act out in this way, but
He does.
he does, and it goes to show his true side. Anyway, so Spike then he comes up with this great plan to distract everyone in the town, distract the people at the gate.
To get his mom to Dr. Kessler. And in realizing Spike can't rely on his dad anymore, he realizes, I have to be the bigger man. It's only me that can take my mom to this doctor. So they do that. They leave the village and they find their way out to the wilderness. And it is interesting to see this younger kid leading his mom, who we've seen so far, he loves his mom very much, even if she gets confused all the time. Leading her, to this doctor, not leading her blindly, but amateurishly, because he's only been out once, so this is only his second time out.
And even then, that one time, he almost got killed so
Exactly.
many times. It almost went south a bajillion times. But it goes to show he's a very brave kid, anything for his mom. So they escape to the mainland, and they have their run-ins with zombies and all these very stressful situations,
In the gas station and all.
Very stupid. Yeah, and one of the nights, very stupidly, Spike falls asleep, and he almost gets eaten by one of the fat, bloater. Yeah, one of the, it's a bloater.
Yeah.
One of the fat bloater zombies, but
The mom takes care of it.
yeah, the mom.
But question mark, because did she?
Yeah, did she? What happened? Who knows? But the mom saves them. They leave off. They almost get caught in a gas station, but this soldier.
They're saved by Eric, who's a Swedish soldier, which there's some fun lore in his character, as he explains that he's part of the Navy, like the quarantine ship that was going around. Basically, the ship that makes sure nothing gets off land and into any other country or any other region. They ensure everything stays there. Essentially, their ship crashed and they had to kind of find their way on around the mainland. But of course, they are cornered by another pack of infected and another alpha with another huge dong that corners them and kills all of his crew except Eric. Eric gets out of there. He comes across Spike and his mom, and he saves them. We get a cool few scenes with this character, Eric, as it's just further proof on the tragedy of everyone who's stuck on these infected islands or countries or continents or what have you, is that the rest of the world is moving on with life as is. Infection hasn't gone to America, hasn't gone to Canada, Mexico, Africa, all that other place. It's really just Europe. And we see this hilarious scene where everything on this island, all these characters they're very primitive. They use primitive bows and arrows. There's no guns. There's no cars. It's all very early man kind of ways of survival. And just as casual as ever, the character Eric, which this movie's set in modern time, just gets out his phone. He's like, "It's about to die soon." The kid's like, "What is that?" It's hilarious, and even it's so much funny when Eric shows the kid his girlfriend. He's like, "Ain't she beautiful?" And he's like, because she has like a bunch of like lip fillers. He's like, "Looks like she has an allergic reaction."
Yeah, he just shits on his fiance.
And it's the funniest scene in the entire movie. I love what the character Eric had to offer in the sense of the tragedy.
Yeah, he's a bit of a dickhead, but I think it's to show that, he's this child and in this military life. I think he's supposed to mirror our main character Spike, where they're both, kids in this hellish world, where even at a young age you're forced to survive or, be in this kind of militaristic or combative world.
Right.
And it's really good, but he's a bit of a dickhead, but he's very funny. He's kind of there for comedic humor,
right?
But he
doesn't overstay his welcome, which is something I like. It's a very modern sense of personality he has. He's a very dampered by modern society, technology, and all that. And he meets Spike and his mom, and they're very calm people. Although they're in this hellish situation, they keep their composure through it all. But because Eric has been corrupted by modern society, modern technology, he's so sporadic, he's so nervous about certain stuff, and he's so incompetent compared to these characters who, a literal child younger than him is so much more braver and so much more able than he is.
Yeah, than somebody who's trained by the military. Yeah, eventually, so the three stick together. They both are on their way to Dr. Kessler, and on the way there, the mom hears cries in the distance, and she's like, "What is that?" And in her little brain rotten sense of thinking, she just, let's go check it out.
Of course, because she's still sick.
Yeah, and the zombie apocalypse. Let's go check out this screaming.
Right.
Yeah.
Which, in a traditional movie, it's like, oh, dumb character. Like, what are they doing? It's like, this person is not mentally well. So this makes sense.
No, yeah. It definitely makes sense. And she goes off to check it out. But, of course, her son is like, "Where's mom going? I got to go find her. Where's she going?" And Eric is like, he looks nervous.
He's freaking out.
Yeah, he doesn't know what to do, but he still follows them because they're the only company he has.
Right.
Eventually, the mom finds the screaming first. She finds out that it's a pregnant, infected woman.
Pregnant, infected.
In the middle of this train, this abandoned train overrun by greenery and plants and all that. Yeah, it's really beautiful set, but she's in the middle there giving birth. The mom walks up, and in this very touching moment of
just pure humanity.
Yeah, the mom to mom, woman to woman.
The rage infected lady isn't trying to kill the mom because she's having a human moment. She's taken back to like, oh, this isn't my first priority to eat you. My first priority is to give birth to my child.
Yes. And they embrace hands, and the mom helps, the infected give birth, and eventually her son and Eric come along the train, and they're very confused by it. They're scared for the mom. They quickly find out, this isn't just a woman screaming, it's an infected woman. And Eric raises his gun at the woman, and it adds this sense of tension as, is he going to kill her? Is Eric going to make the wrong move and then set the zombie off, and then shit hits the fan again? Like, what's going to happen?
But eventually, the infected lady gives birth to a completely normal baby.
Yes, which
completely normal. The baby's not infected whatsoever. But, once the mom comes to again, Eric has to shoot and kill the mom.
Yes.
Which I joked to, because I saw the movie with my dad. I joked to my dad in the theater. I was like, that baby's deaf now.
Yeah.
That baby cannot hear.
Yeah, that baby for sure. If it real life, yeah.
That baby's deaf.
The baby wouldn't be able to hear, but movies.
Yeah, movies.
And it's like this moment of this beautiful moment of humanity in this terrible world, quickly ruined.
Yeah.
But quickly you got to get out of here. Oh, the zombies heard us. They heard the gunshot. We got to move.
Right.
On the way out.
Eric is so terrified that this baby's actually infected. he's like, oh no, like it's gonna bite you, it's gonna get you. But they're like, no, like look at it, it's normal, it's not mad, it's not angry, it's just crying. But Eric is so
baby down.
Eric is so convinced, and he's so incompetent that he wants to kill the baby. He's like, if y'all aren't gonna give him up, I'm gonna shoot y'all too. But just in that moment, you hear like a huge roar, and you see like there's an open space in the train above Eric, and a hand reaches down, pulls him out. You see his like skull drop down with like this big hulking alpha, and he's got his like head in his hand. He's just like, and his huge like dongs out. He's like, and he's like, and then he like chases the mom, and Spike,
It was like a video game level.
it truly is like the boss.
Yeah, like where Spike would shoot the alpha with an arrow, run to the next car of the train, shoot the alpha with an arrow, run to the next car.
Yeah.
And, you know, the mom's there with the baby in the front, like trying to get through, you know, running. And it's like this super intense scene. It reminded me of a video game, but in a really good way.
Right.
And like, oh shit, I'm on the edge of my seat. Like, he's going to get me, he's right behind me.
He's right behind me, isn't he?
And eventually they escape out the train. The alpha's right about to get him, this close.
But then a dart blow.
A little dart hits him in the neck.
Yeah.
And he just gets knocked out pretty much. You know, he's knocked out while standing. Dr. Kessler comes out, the bright orange minion. He looks like a Oompa Loompa.
Exactly.
Just walks out of the woods, and he's like, I'll take that.
He's got iodine all over him, as you know. He tells us later on is that the infection doesn't really like iodine or iodine.
Iodine. And he takes the head from Samson, as he calls the alpha. He even, you know, names the zombies. That's how he lives, just within this world, such and fine tune with it that he's giving these, you know, zombies names. And he takes the head from it. He's like, all right, well, let's get out of here before, you know, the dart wears off. And so they go back to his base, and he shows him his life's work, the Bone Temple.
You see the Bone Temple, and we alluded to the Bone Temple earlier as when the dad Jamie told his son Spike the story about him and a group of friends went out to see Dr. Kessler because of like the rumors of like what had happened, and they find just multiple bodies, you know, infected, what have you, just all like lined up on the ground in like perfect rows, and he's dismembering the bodies, or I forgot, like, did it show him like
He's burning them.
He's burning, that's right, he's burning the bodies, and to the dad Jamie it looked like horrific stuff, right? But in this third and final part of this movie, my favorite part in all honesty, we see the kind, caring, loving man that Dr. Kessler is. He loves the human life. He loves the fact that everyone has to die. Everyone has to come to an end. And that's the theme about this movie, Memento Mori. Remember death. Remember you're going to have to die. Remember there's multiple deaths in this world. Some are worse than others. You can be torn apart by infected, or you could be shot in the head. No pain, just a quick over. You could be dying of an illness surrounded by the ones you love, or you could be exploded by a gunshot or what have you. There's multiple kinds of ways to die in the world of 28, you know, days, weeks, years later. And this doctor gives us one of the most meaningful segments of this movie in the Bone Temple, which is where he takes all of the skulls of the people, you know, that he found or have died over the years, and he builds a huge tower out of it as a memorial to the lives these people lived, to not forgetting that they're just another kill to the count, James. But they're actually people. They were once people. They're not cannon fodder. They're lives that live, their lives that breathe, their lives that laughed, and their lives that mattered in the grand scheme of the world. And his character brought such meaning and such light to such a dire world. But you know, Spike's there with his mom. They're there to see what's wrong with his mom.
And eventually it's kind of like this. Spike has these high hopes of, if I take her here, she'll be saved.
Yeah, because the doctor's meant to cure my mom.
Everything will be better. And Spike he's born in this world where there are no doctors. There's no technology. All he knows is that doctors cure people. He doesn't know that some things can't be cured. And it's this heartbreaking moment when he finds out that his mom has cancer. And he can't do anything about it.
Dr. Kessler's saying, I don't have any medicine.
And obviously, you can't do chemo in the apocalypse. You can't have medicine.
And it's much more tragic when, you know, like that example of Eric, where it's like the world's going on around him. Like, if they took that mom to a doctor, like chances are she was probably too far gone. But
They
like
could have caught it on earlier.
They could have caught on early if they were somewhere else, if they were in a non-infected area. But because the world has secluded them, they can't do anything.
Yeah, and it's really heartbreaking. And eventually, Spike starts to freak out, and Dr. Kessler sedates him with a dart. Not really knocks him out, but calms him down, mellows him out. And he goes and with another dart kills the mom. Puts her out of her misery. She's very sick. She's in a lot of pain. And even, it wasn't this moment like, oh, I don't want to be killed. The mom knew what was going on. The mom
understood, there's many types of death, and
Yeah.
she would rather, have this peaceful one or being sedated, not knowing anything what's going on. She was able to say goodbye to Spike. And, of course, Dr. Kessler makes a skull out of her.
Yeah, he takes her body, burns it, and gives the skull to Spike, and tells him, put it wherever you want.
So where does Spike put it?
At the very top of the bone temple, this monument of skulls. And this part is really, really heartbreaking.
It's right at the moment sun's rising from the night. It's a beautiful sunset. It's Spike's last sunset that he can experience with his mom as he puts her skull at the top of the temple. And it kind of like made the movie.
Well, I believe it was a sunrise.
Well, yeah, the sunrise.
Yeah, the sunrise. And I thought that was beautiful too. He points the mom's head facing the sunrise, not the sunset, but facing the sunrise. It's a very beautiful moment, and it's a wonderful detail. I guess it kind of adds this sense of hope and love, I guess, to this really messed up movie. And kind of, after that, the movie it kind of wraps up very quickly. After that, he sends a letter to his dad. I'm not coming back home, Dad.
And he gives the baby back to his dad.
Oh yeah, he sends off the baby to the village, to be taken care of. And in the note, he explains,
I don't want to come back just right now. I'll come back when I'm ready, but as of right now, I'm not ready. And we see Spike surviving on his own.
But then he says the baby's infected in the note also.
That's right. He mentions that the baby came from an infected, but the baby's not.
Yeah, so we'll see in the sequel.
We'll see what happens to the baby.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that. But yeah, it cuts to him living on his own. He's cooking a fish.
Can I talk about this?
And this is probably the most controversial part of the movie.
Is the Jimmies. Now,
The Jimmy Gang!
The Jimmy Gang, where Spike's surviving on his own. He kills a few infected, and this is witnessed by the Jimmy Gang. A gang of a bunch of dudes who look like who? Jimmy Savile?
Jimmy Savile. They're like Jimmy Savile Power Rangers. They're in different colored tracksuits with these big blonde Jimmy Savile wigs. And, they come to Spike's aid, and you got, what's his, O'Connell, Jack O'Connell.
Jack O'Connell, Remick from Sinners this year.
Yes, the two best movies of the year. And he's arguably like the best part. And that's controversial. You can't say he's the best part in Sinners, but he's very enjoyable in Sinners. I'll say it. His character is really enjoyable in Sinners. And he's on top of the rock, and he's like, you need help? We'd love to help you out. We'd love to kill these zombies.
We'd love to help you out, man.
Yeah, and then you see him counting, kind of like the moment in The Mummy when O'Connell again, when O'Connell's like, steady, he's kind of counting.
He just like hold, and go. And we just get this moment of pure absurdity where I think they're Swedish or Scottish, or I think they're Scottish. All these Scottish dudes and ladies, they just start flipping off the rocks and killing all
Power Rangers stuff.
Shot
from like the ground up, where it shows them flipping midair in slow motion, and they're there with their weapons slicing.
And it's all an absurd, they have like little like hockey things, and it's so amazing on how absurd they went with this ending, and it's just like such a stark contrast to what the previous scene was and how heartbreaking this was. And it makes it even more absurd how they just switch to like heavy metal as they're like taking out, like all the infected.
Oh my, it's honestly, it's such a good part.
The movie ends with main Jimmy, asking Spike, let's be pals. And then boom, cut to black. That's how the movie ends. Now, I want to say, I think the reason why this final scene works so much is because it reminds us of what the message of the movie was. Memento mori, remember death. Remember that things have to come to an end. Remember that people have to pass away in this world, this very bleak, disgusting, hopeless world. And it's essentially saying, in the world of 28 however long later, things like this are going to happen. People like this are gonna die. They're gonna, witness like horrible deaths and all that. But during Dr. Kessler's speech earlier, he, references Memento Mori, but he also references, I looked it up here just a second ago, Memento Amoris. Remember love. Remember to not lose yourself to the fact that that bad things are eventually going to happen, that, things are going to come to an end. Don't lose yourself to the bad thoughts. Don't lose yourself to all the negatives in the world. Remember to love. Remember to have fun. I think that's why this movie works so well, is because we can have that fun, because everything in this movie is a parallel. The fun Spike had with his dad going out on the first hunt, and that's Memento Amoris. Memento Mori is the death of kind of their happy relationship when the dad hits Spike. And then there's, Memento Amoris with the mom, the time Spike spent with her, but Memento Mori when eventually she had to die. And even the village in of itself, Spike's relationship with the village, Memento Amoris. It was a lovely time that he spent at the village, but that time's over. Memento Mori. The time's gone. Remember death. The death of that era. And, the last little scene we have with Spike and his mom is a Memento Mori moment. It's the death of an era, death of a character. And then the stark contrast of Memento Amoris. In this bleak world, remember to have fun. Remember to have fun with this absurd, bizarre ending. Remember to enjoy this, because, yes, I know some people needed a little more breathing room in between that heartbreaking scene with the mom and this absurd battle of the Jimmies and the infected. But I think it speaks a lot to the real world. Just because something shitty's happening, some bad things are going on, don't lose yourself to the seriousness of it all. Remember to have fun. Remember to love each other. Remember to, trust people. Remember to keep your heads up high. And I think this ending really drives that point home. Although this heartbreaking scene just happened, remember to still have fun with everything else.
Yes, very well put. Very well put. What would you rate the movie?
I would make this movie a 9.5 out of 10.
Exactly the same, 9.5 out of 10. It's
I think
really great.
the only little thing is that little 0.5 where that goes. Is just, I think that first part with the dad, it's really good, but it is a little slow, and it does feel a little detached from like what the next few parts do. It's not bad at all. It just feels a little, on its own island, which isn't an issue at all for me. This movie's a 9.5 out of 10. Once again, my favorite movie of the year. And I think that's all three movies.
Yeah. Covered all three. Gave our honest thoughts and opinions on them. We really enjoy this trilogy, and we cannot wait to see the
28 years later, The Bone Temple, next year in 2026. This one's not directed by Danny Boyle, though.
Nia DaCosta.
Nia DaCosta, the
Which...
director of Candyman and The Marvels. So she has done horror, but also we don't know who's writing it. Do we know who's writing it?
It's Alex Garland, but I'm
Garland's
really worried. Well, I'm not worried, but I don't know. It's just, I don't know if I would trust such a young director with not a lot to show for with this sequel, like with the follow-up to this movie. Man, this movie was a powerhouse.
And that's what sucks, is that if either of the two coming after this don't live up to this one, it's gonna get shit on.
It's a complete waste.
All the more. Like, this movie has to tie the bow around this trilogy. And I think that because this movie sets such a high bar, it's just all the more reason for the ones, coming up.
Yeah. But I really like Candyman.
Yeah.
We know what happened with the Marvels.
We know what happened with the Marvels, but that's more like studio BS.
Yeah, we know that was really Feige. Nia DaCosta was just to fill in the role of director with that one.
Puppet.
Yeah, she was really a puppet.
Feige was puppet master.
But with Candyman was really good. I remember I really enjoyed it, and it really stood out to me. A lot of people didn't like it. Again, another like kind of controversial movie where people either really like it or they don't. But I have hope in Nia DaCosta to pull it off for this one. I'm a little worried, but I think she'll do a great job.
But without further ado, y'all, thanks for watching. This is our review of 28 Days, Weeks, Years Later. Hope you guys had a fun time with these movies. And of course, if you guys feel the need, like, comment, subscribe. Tell us what you liked about this movie. Tell your ranking of this movie.
Yes, have discussions in the comments.
Of course. Favorite movie of the year so far, go for it. But yeah, we're Late Night Movie Service. I'm Diego.
I'm Joaquin.
Have a good one, y'all.
Later.